Looks like their home just got destroyed. Hometown or home. Oh my god, yes. Oh, yes. Look at this. The perspective there. Everything feels so large to the young children. Oh, is that Mom? Oh, it is. It is. I was just gonna say, is that the girl with the blue hair? Jinx? That's like the one thing I know about this. Oh. Interesting. Is that kind of like a no more? The last time he does that? Oh, this is stunning looking. Look at this.
Oh. It's nice getting above it all, huh?
I guess I was wrong then. I thought the one with the blue hair is Jinx. Or is meant to be Jinx.
I'll get her.
No. Powder, look at me.
Maybe it is her. Maybe she changes her name or something later.
That I'm ready.
That's right. So?
Oh, that was great.
Whoa, whoa. Thanks.
I feel like later there might be a shot that's going to be reversed. The sky above seems to be a motif already.
Look around you. You think anyone topside's going hungry? Besides, this is exactly the
Topside.
sort of job Vander would have pulled when he was our age.
Vander's gonna kill us.
Yeah, only if we screw up. So don't screw up.
Cut to them screwing up, most likely, right? I'm digging the score already. That looks kind of fresh. Pandora's box. Careful now. Okay, 6 spots seem to be missing.
Powder, we gotta go!
Oh, oh.
Come on!
Well, that shit's gonna blow up. Come on, Powder. Come on. Don't get left behind now.
Go, go, go!
Oh, yes. Ugh.
Man, not again. I just got this shirt.
Oh, God. So, clearly a bit of a class system going on here, right? Not bit of a class system. It is a class system. And, you know, them kind of going through a gutter full of feces. Quite symbolic, isn't it? Yeah, she's seen some shit in her lifetime, right? Or this is all she's known. Oh.
Wanna see how that ends?
Oh. Jeez. Go home, man. A lot of chase scenes. And they're fantastic.
Every time she comes, something goes wrong. She jinxes every job.
Just drop it, Milo.
Who told you it was our
Whoa.
way? Come along if you wanted a peek.
Yes. The concept of an underground city is always a cool one, isn't it? Even if it is a harsh reality and tough lifestyle, of course. Survival of the fittest and all that.
To the playground, follow me, maze and fantasies.
I think I know what you need.
You don't seem to listen,
A
Barman.
bit of advice. Don't threaten the guy who pours the drinks.
Ah.
So you're Vander.
Hound of the Underground. I expected something younger.
We were expecting traders who would honor their word.
Ah.
So I guess we're all disappointed.
Got us all wrong, my friend.
How about you just give Huck the rest of what you owe him, and I'll let you walk out of here in one piece.
Okay. A man of the people.
Do we have a deal?
But looks like you can make enemies down here.
You'll learn to love it.
I like him. I like him. Ah. He doesn't miss anything, does he?
To the lanes. Everyone all right?
Yeah, I'm sure he already knows.
Good. I don't suppose you can explain why it is that I'm hearing about an explosion and a foot chase topside? Did you even stop to think about what could have happened to you? Eh? To them?
But you're the one who always says we have to earn our place in this world.
I also told you time and time again the North Side's off limits.
North Side.
We stay out of Piltover's business.
Why? They've got plenty, while we're down here scraping together coins. When did you get so comfortable living in someone else's shadow?
Ooh. Ooh.
Those kids look up to you.
Yeah, I know.
You know, but you don't know. When people look up to you, you don't get to be selfish. You say run, they run. You say swim, they dive in. You say light a fire, they show up with oil. But whatever happens, it's on you.
Yeah, it's your responsibility.
These are our streets. Someone should remind them of
You're
that.
not hearing me. That path, this, it's not gonna solve your problems. You did put that idiot on his arse, though, right?
Whoa. Love that little.
Do you remember what was in that bag? Biggest payout we've ever seen, and she just lost
Oh
it.
no, she's gonna
made
end
a
up
mistake.
saying something
Name
and
one time she
it's gonna
was
hurt.
twice the person at half her age.
You know what, Milo? You're right. There's a bunch of things Powder just can't do.
You don't have to tell me twice.
Oh no, you should have stuck around. Oh, look at this lighting here.
Owner's the shittiest businessman I know.
Old buddies?
Throws herself at trouble wherever she can find some.
Yeah, they're growing up, Vander. Looking to write their own stories. You can't protect them forever.
He can guide
Someone
them.
was following them. Someone on our side.
Who?
There's worse things than enforcers out there. We both know that.
Oh, crap.
Oh,
Cool off a bit. Go.
young gun. But here you have someone who's clearly experienced in this lady.
You know this crossed the line upstairs.
Was anyone hurt?
A building was blown to bits. What do you think?
She sounds familiar.
You don't seem to grasp how serious this is. If I don't put someone behind bars tonight, the next time I come down here, I'll have an army of enforcers with me. We both know how that'll go.
I'm sorry, Grace.
I've seen.
But I
clips
can't
of that.
offer up my own people.
What are you calling this one?
That's great.
Twister. Just that you were twice the person at half my age. You heard them. I'm not a fighter.
You don't have to be. Look, I've got these. And you've got those.
They never work.
They will.
Yeah, ominous.
What?
I like that. She makes sure to turn off the light.
We've all had bad days. But we learn. And we stick together.
That's beautiful.
These were in my pocket. They're from the apartment.
What are they?
I don't know.
Milo's wrong, Powder. You're stronger than you think. And one day, this city's gonna respect us.
Oh. I just got chills. Oh, okay.
It was their fault. The
explosion in the upper city.
That was them.
Yeah, the topsiders are up in arms looking for him.
Ah.
Vander's in trouble.
Yeah, he's gonna use this now. Whoever this is. Ominous presence.
But keep him off the streets.
Oh, man.
Our timeline has moved up.
Feeding time.
Do you have a subject in mind?
Someone just volunteered.
Shit. Ah. Right then, Arcane episode 1. I've got to say, that's a solid start. Really is quite a solid start. A lot of great setup. And of course, you know, a lot of stuff that is kind of common in the first episode of a series, right? A lot of establishing moments that are kind of familiar to a lot of us. So yeah, you know, I think it did a great job of all of that setup, right? The beginnings of that setup, for sure. I'm not going to say it was an amazing episode, right? But it was certainly a solid opening, for sure. I mean, there's more than enough setup there for a lot of exciting possibilities, right? In terms of character arcs, in terms of, you know, the message of the story, the themes it's going to cover. Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting stuff in there. And then, of course, from a visual standpoint, from a production standpoint, it is just, yeah, you know, in that sense, it just completely lives up to all of that hype, right? I've been hearing about this for a long time at this point. And yeah, you know, at no point did I think, oh, this isn't really, it's not quite as special as people claimed it to be. No, it's exactly as special as a lot of you made it out to be from a production standpoint. I mean, it's frame after frame, you know, every frame a painting certainly applies here, right? It's just gorgeous stuff. You know, you see the results of giving people, or the people that are a part of the production, ample time for the production, because it took something like 6 to 7 years, right, to make this first season. Now, you know, in that sense, it's a bit of an outlier, isn't it? Because you don't really get to see that type of production schedule, you know, actually giving the people that are a part of this production that type of time, or allocating that type of time. You know, of course, it's beautiful to see, and you see the results, right? But, you know, it's really quite rare, isn't it? Listen, before I go any further, I'm not the, you know, the biggest animation expert or anything, even anime. I feel like I'm still kind of in the beginning stages of my, you know, grasp on animation. You know, I'm big on film, of course, and, you know, production, and I'd say I have a decent grasp on storytelling elements. But yeah, animation, the technical side of it, you know, I'm not going to claim to be some kind of expert. You know, I just don't have that type of knowledge in it. But, you know, I'm always open to experience more of it and learn more about it. And, you know, in that sense, this is actually the first North American production in terms of animation that I've actually covered on the channel. Yeah, it is, because before this, it's been all anime, right? And, you know, I've had the chance to check out some really fantastic anime as well. So it's great to finally get to Arcane, you know, more of a North American production. Though I know that the studio that is a part of this, or the main studio essentially behind it, is a French studio. Now, before I kind of go further into this, and of course, there's a lot to get into here, a lot of juicy stuff, but let me kind of do an intro. Right? I know it's the post-episode portion, but let me do an intro, because these days I don't really do an intro anymore, because I feel like I'm repeating the same things. You know, I'll say the things in the intro and then I end up saying them in the outro or in the post-episode portion anyways. And I feel like a lot of people just don't really even listen to the intro. And, you know, I do have quite a lengthy, you know, actual opening, like my channel opening. And then, of course, the highlight reel that has all the frames I really, really liked. So I feel like it's a bit of a trade-off, you know. I kind of do that instead of actually having a speaking intro. But yeah, you know, Arcane, I know it's based on a game, but I also know that this isn't actually how the game functions. This is more of like a narrative approach, though I'm sure that a lot of the world building comes from the game, And again, the one thing I really knew going into it is Jinx. I mean, it's kind of impossible to not know about Jinx, right? I know the look of Jinx, and the look I know is an older look. So yeah, there is going to be a bit of a time skip, another time skip at some point. Jinx is bit of a favorite in terms of cosplay. I've seen a lot of random pictures on Twitter, on Instagram. It always pops up, but I don't know anything about character progression. I just know the look of that character, and that Jinx is a big deal of this story, right? So I know that. The other thing I know is that it's been quite the surprise for a lot of people that don't play the game, right? And that's a good sign. That was always a good sign to me, that it's a standalone experience that doesn't really require any prior gaming experience in League of Legends. So a friend of mine actually kind of stumbled upon this show, not knowing anything about League of Legends. She's not much of a gamer, but I think she just kind of gave it a chance one day, and then she was just blown away by it, just completely hooked, and she's been championing it ever since, in terms of how impressive it is, and how it's able to kind of stand on its own two legs, even for newcomers. So again, that was another thing that made me really excited about this. So I've had recommendations from all sides, friends, a lot of you guys who check out my content. So yeah, even though I'm kind of late to the party, and I'm sure at this point everyone and their grandma has checked it out and watched it, it's still the first time for me, right? So it's still exciting. But yeah, let's actually get into the episode itself. That ending is really quite ominous, especially for that blonde dude, the young adult teenager, I suppose, Deckard. And I'm sure that's, taking inspiration from Blade Runner and Deckard. But yeah, he's about to be a test subject. And this guy, whose name I didn't really quite get, really, it's quite a unique and interesting character design, isn't it? This, I don't know, scientist. But yeah, they seem to be developing this serum, kind of creating, or potentially trying to create super soldiers, perhaps, berserkers. They're kind of moving on from a rat to, again, from the looks of it, Deckard. Now, the reasoning behind it all, you have to start asking, do they plan on kind of mass producing this? Do they kind of plan on putting something into motion, right? The beginning of the episode, the opening is, right? The cold open. It's quite the haunting cold open, actually. And it's quite the choice to open up with something like that for the entire series. Really sets the tone, doesn't it? Now, a bit of urban pacification, essentially because of an uprising, revolution, freedom fighters, and unfortunately for the two sisters, who I adore at this point. I really do. I love their relationship. But yeah, their parents get taken out in this because they are out there alongside other people like Vander, who I really like. I really like this guy. I really do. Like I said, a man of the people, a good person, someone who clearly had, a bit of a rough upbringing himself, someone who can clearly see a bit of himself in Vi as well, right? And that's why I think he's always kind of trying to teach her. And it looks like he's taught her quite a bit already, but the lessons never stop. They never do, because she's at that age as well now. And it was a reminder to her that, okay, you're not just kind of thinking for yourself, you have other roles. These other children, they look up to you, because she is the leader of that little clique they have, right? That little group they have. And I love how, these misfits kind of come together. That's always such a delightful coming together, isn't it? Because it always makes for such a great and enjoyable and unique group dynamic. The different character types. And I think that's another standout of this episode, because it has presented a strong collection of characters already. Fantastic character types to bounce off of each other. So that's exciting. That's always exciting because, given the situation that they are in at the moment, I mentioned the setup for potential character arcs. I could see the possibilities already. There's so much potential here for positive change arcs, flat character arc, negative change arc, stuff like the corruption arc, the disillusionment arc, right? The fall arc, the redemption arc. But going back to my point about the cold open, and kind of, again, connecting it to the finale there, or the final moments of this episode, and the production of this serum, yeah, that revolution, that uprising, yeah, it was decimated and kind of, it was done and dusted. And you see, Vander kind of give up on it as well, because now he had a new responsibility, a lot of new responsibilities, now that he's kind of taken in these young girls, these sisters. So he's essentially a guardian figure, right? I mean, sure, he could also kind of function as a father figure, but, guardian is the feeling I was getting from this, a shining light at a moment of darkness for these young girls. And yeah, it's a devastating scene, right? And you see that Powder is actually so young at that moment that she's not really even able to comprehend and kind of understand the situation. Her reaction is essentially based on her big sister, who she kind of mimics, right? She sees that her sister is like really upset, and she's old enough. That's the thing, right? That's a heartbreaking thing, that Vi is old enough to understand all of this, and that their life has been, flipped upside down and changed forever. I guess the other person that was in the frame was their father then, right? I kind of just focused on the mom, but yeah, I guess both parents are kind of depicted there in that frame. But yeah, I felt that Powder was a bit too young at that point. And, she sees her sister really quite upset. And she kind of not plays along, but she kind of just falls in line, To her, it's more upsetting that her sister is upset, even if she doesn't quite understand the reasoning behind it, right? And, that's another thing here. I love how, yes, it's full of great action, beautifully animated, of course, but, at the core of it, it's really exploring the human nature of these characters, right? And how different things affect different people. And you really see the effect of trauma on, different character types and different types of people in this, the effects of trauma on young children, right? Powder, you see, she has a trauma response. She has this PTSD, right? As she sees this really vicious street fight that breaks out, right? It's really, really quite graphic, isn't it? And she just kind of internalizes it. She kind of zones out. It kind of triggers her, doesn't it? So you see that this is something that is still a part of her psyche, that's still kind of there, that hasn't really been addressed, because she doesn't really know how to kind of address it. And Vi, her sister, her big sister, she has a lot on her plate as well. She's essentially the leader of this group. She is kind of like the arrowhead. The others really look up to her. They do, because she is the oldest. But also, she's a big sister to Powder, of course. But then beyond that, she's also a bit of a mother figure to Powder as well, right? So she's playing a lot of different roles here. And then, of course, she's still a young person herself. All of these things affect her as well. And, again, she's going through that phase. There's a lot of resentment towards the people over there, upside. I mean, that divide is actually put up front, isn't it? The utopia and the oppressed. Top city and undercity, right? Piltover? Yeah, Piltover, right? And then, of course, the bridge between the two worlds. The Forbidden Bridge, essentially. I should probably go back to my initial point. So, about the revolution and the uprising. That generation's uprising and revolution, the freedom fighters, yeah, that was done. That was done and dusted. But, there's other generations. There's a new generation, so right? I mean, to me, it feels like there is going to be another uprising, right? Another revolution, or an attempt, at least. And I feel that, some of these young characters might find themselves a part of it. And then to, kind of connect it back to the ending and that scientist guy. And there seems to be one on each side that's kind of being set up here. The guy who they robbed, and then this guy in Undercity. I mean, his intentions don't seem to be the most, beneficial to society, perhaps. But yeah, this person, this scientist, I suppose, yeah, I think, he probably also has ideas of uprisings and, retaliation and, revolutions So yeah, I could see something like that happening, and I could see different characters kind of, being a part of it. And, something like that could divide a lot of these people. I mean, a thing that's really clear to see here is that you really need loyalty in Undercity, or that loyalty plays a big part. Choosing your friends and your associates accordingly or adequately, or, picking the right people is a big deal, right? It's important because I feel like betrayal is always around the corner in a place like that, right? It's a dog-eat-dog world, survival of the fittest. That's just the nature of it. And also in that sense, there's strong indications here that it is going to explore the idea of nature versus nurture. People going down a path, people being a product of their environment. It's all there, right? It's a great setup. Like I said earlier, it's a great setup episode for sure. But as I say that, you have to remember, there's good people. There might be bad people on both sides, but there's also good people on both sides, and that includes Upside. Sorry. Of course, there's good people there. Sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. That actually kind of reminds me of a scene from Lost in Random. It's a PlayStation game. It's lovely. I should go back and finish it. And, there's that poignant moment as Vander kind of looks down and he's got this brace on his arm, right? And he tells his buddy, Benzo? I think it's Benzo, something like that. But I like that they have this, old buddies type relationship that's going on. He mentioned something about there being much worse things than enforcers out here. And then, of course, it kind of goes to the final scene, that scientist. So clearly there seems to be a history there because, he mentioned Vander as well, because that guy's ears perked up the moment Deckard kind of drops that, it was them, it was those kids. And, the moment he realizes, Vander's in trouble, right? He's going to use that against him. So yeah, a little bit concerned about that for sure. Like I mentioned, Vander, man of the people, bit of a hero for the locals. But of course, being that individual, you have a target on your back, a big target on your back, especially in Undercity, right? They kind of take us through the lanes, he called it. And this show is the type of place it is. It's really quite reminiscent of Blade Runner as well, even though it's not really science fiction. I mean, it has sci-fi elements for sure, but it is steampunk, really quite steampunk. And then perhaps you can even kind of call it a dystopian future as well, right? It's really quite memorable, the locations and the contrast from Piltover, upper side, and then Undercity. They adequately depict that contrast, don't they? But yeah, I think that's kind of on my mind at the moment is that other guy whose penthouse they kind of hit up and kind of, rob and accidentally set off that explosive. The explosive that, or multiples that Powder has at the moment. Powder, who seems to be a fan of, making bombs. They're not really quite effective at the moment, but, again, there's a lot of foreshadowing, a lot of ominous moments, actually, even, especially for Powder, who feels like the sweetest kid. But, there is something there, right? She has a lot of trauma, childhood trauma, but then there is something interesting there as well. You have to, at the end of the day, she is kind of infatuated with making these bombs, these pipe bombs. And, at one point, she actually kind of looked like she was really into it. Right? Like she was kind of really excited to see the outcome of this, if it actually goes off and gets that guy, right? At the end of the day, it didn't happen. And it was just like a puff of pink smoke, but it is a bomb at the end of the day that, that could really mess someone up. And yeah, there was a bit of an interesting reaction on her face as it's about to go off. And then you'll get moments like Powder's reflection inside that explosive, right? As she holds it up inside of the penthouse. So yeah, the idea of Powder having these explosives, really highly devastating and effective, and highly lethal explosives on her. Yeah, I'm sure down the line, she'll be making bombs that are really quite effective, from the looks of it and from the setup and the foreshadowing of it all. And, at first I thought, oh, okay, maybe this isn't Jinx. But yeah, it was Jinx. And you see that one guy, Milo was it? The guy who looks like Vegeta. She just jinxes all the projects or all the runs or something along those lines. But yeah, in terms of the guy who they robbed or whose penthouse they hit up, he was in Undercity, right? And apparently paid in gold, right? Didn't haggle. Almost as if, yes, he needs these things and he needs to get them from the black market, right? So it's still kind of a toss-up in terms of, do people actually know about this, like up there, right? Or is this actually some kind of like, under wraps type thing? But yeah, essentially he needed things that he could only find on the black market in Undercity. But also, the feeling I'm getting is that this whole idea of him not haggling and him just paying the price that's being put out there in gold, to me, it almost kind of also feels like, oh, maybe he's trying to help as well, maybe. But yeah, he was essentially followed by Lil Man, Echo was it? Now, see, of course, the theory aspect of this kind of comes into play now. It's like, okay, is it possible that he kind of wanted someone to follow him? Maybe he knew that he's going to get followed as well. I don't know. There's a lot of things that could be at play here. And of course, they don't show us the guy actually coming into the penthouse, right? Of course, that's a deliberate choice to not show him yet. I'm sure I'll get to see, hopefully in the next episode, right? That would be the natural progression at this point. But yeah, they didn't show him. So that makes me think he'll be someone that is important to the story, perhaps. He seems to be some type of genius, right? Some type of important figure. So yeah, I'm excited about that aspect of it as well. And him kind of going down to Undercity and then being followed up as well. But in terms of this other guy who seems to have a hard-on for Vander, maybe Vander kind of drove him out of the lanes, and this guy had to kind of relocate, and maybe that explains this this underwater lab that he's got going on and these crazy experiments, right? So yeah. In that sense, at the end of the day, it is based on a game, right? So a lot of these things do feel like power-ups, don't they? And just different techniques that you can use. I'm guessing some of these are actually in the game, or maybe all of them are. Maybe this power-up, this strange potion, right? That kind of turns you into this berserker almost, makes you lose your mind. And then, of course, these explosives, the crystal explosives as well. I'm sure all of those are elements of the game, League of Legends. I have seen it on Twitch before, but it's not really the type of game I'm into. But I know it's a big deal. It's a massive deal. And there's like big tournaments and things that happen every year, right? Esports is a massive thing at this point. But you'll have to let me know if there's any, potential or any noise of, a story-based game being in development perhaps after the success of Arcane, right? That could be cool. That type of game, a story-driven game, that's a bit more up my alley. And I know season 2 is, it's cooking up apparently, but there is some concern that maybe it might not be as good as the first season because of, the time that was allocated to the first season. But again, that is quite a rare thing to be in a position to allocate that type of time to something, right? To production. But you see here that, it's certainly about protecting your own, but also not completely shielding them from the harsh reality that they are a part of, right? There's only so much protecting you can do. And, you see it that Vander has prepared them or done his best to prepare them for the realities of their existence, the harsh reality they exist in, but also at the same time being concerned about their safety, being concerned about them taking on too much risk. So yeah, and you see that it kind of trickles down to Vi, who kind of takes a similar approach with Powder, right? Yes, she's protecting her sister for sure, but she's also not shielding her from these experiences. She feels that it's necessary for her to be out there. Yes, to the others, it kind of feels like she's a bit of a tag along or a bit of a, speed bump or an anchor, but I think her being out there is a good thing as well for her, right? To get this experience, rather than being completely shielded That can never be a good thing, especially in Undercity. But also in terms of the dynamics of Undercity and Upside, the enforcer, the lady, I know that voice. I know it. I just can't remember her name. She's a lovely actor. She's fantastic. I just can't remember the name at the moment. But yeah, her voice is so distinct, isn't it? But you see that, there's these two old heads from different places, but they do have an understanding, right? You see that they try their best to keep the peace. They have this mutual respect, essentially. You see that Grace, was it? She has enough respect for Vander to, kind of give him a heads up, let him know how things are, that this new incident has really rattled people on Upside, or the higher ups on Upside, and that, they're asking for a head. They're asking for a body, right? Someone needs to be in jail for this. Someone needs to go down for this. So it'll be interesting how that plays out. You see, Vander is really quite stressed at the moment after that meeting. But yeah, I like that dynamic. But can someone like Lil Man kind of understand the nuance of that relationship, right? To him, it might seem like, oh, Vander is speaking with the enemy, right? They seem to be quite friendly. So I don't know. There's potential there for misunderstandings. But shifting back to the production side of things, I've got to say the sound design is really quite noticeable in this. The Foley work was top-notch. The original score, yes. As you know by now, many of you know by now, I'm a big fan of original scores for film, for anime, for shows, for gaming, for anything. And this one seems to have quite the memorable one already. And even the song lyrics seem to have some thematic connection to the story as a whole. The subtitles I had on didn't really translate the lyrics, but I caught some of them. And yeah, they seem to be in line with the setting and the situation these characters find themselves in. But yeah, before episode 2, I'll kind of check out the song lyrics. I'll check out the other subtitles. I think it's subtitles 2 or 3 that actually do have the translation, or not translation, the lyrics. But yeah, the dynamic camera movement, it's beautiful. It's really quite beautiful. The color design, the lighting, the virtual cinematography is beautiful. And all of that, beautiful hand-drawn imagery is kind of framed in such an evocative manner, right? There's a lot of poignant and evocative imagery. And, a lot of it plays a role in foreshadowing and kind of setting up moments for later on in the series, perhaps. I mean, there's usually a lot of foreshadowing in a pilot episode, in the first episode of something. So I'm usually on the lookout for these kind of frames and moments. I mean, a lot of them had a distinct feeling of foreshadowing, right? Things that are being said. I mean, the one thing that kind of confirmed, her actually being Jinx. The blue hair was kind of enough, but still, the moment they called her Powder, I'm like, okay, maybe not. But then, I just realized she could have just changed her name, and indeed, it feels like that's how it is going to play out. She is going to call herself Jinx, and it appears that comes from, this idea of her jinxing every single job that they're on, right? But yeah, I think Powder is one to look out for here. There's a lot of interesting things going on here, and I think her trauma and her trauma response and this PTSD is going to play a part in her character progression and arc. And also, there's an interesting visual, isn't there, in the opening? Not the actual opening to the show. That one I skipped. I was told by a lot of people, a lot of friends to, make sure you don't see that. But it said Netflix presents, and, it appears to be both of those sisters, but it's kind of presented in a yin and yang manner, isn't it? Right? And then after the Netflix presents, it goes into the cold open. But yeah, I think that does it for this one, folks. I'm really, really quite excited for the things this story has to say, social and political commentary as well, from the looks of it. Yeah, it's strong. It's a strong setup episode for sure. And, I'm excited. I'm excited to continue. 8 more episodes ahead of me, right? So if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in full length, and it is a timer-based full length, please make sure to read the tier description before you do become a patron, if you become a patron. And yeah, that gives you access to full length. And, it's pretty simple. I do a countdown, 3, 2, 1, and I click and you just time it. You just open up Netflix and you time it. It's simple, super simple. Also, early access. By the time this comes to YouTube, there should be 2 early access episodes. So yeah, you know, consider checking that out. But yeah, if you're interested, check out the link in the description, the pinned comment. Also links to social media, if that's your thing. Twitter specifically is the one I'm really quite active on, or at least I like to be. So if you're a longtime subscriber or a new subscriber or just someone who happens to come across this, thank you for your time, because time is precious and I appreciate it. I really do. And I do hope to see you again soon for episode 2. Until then, take it easy.